Hi everybody, this is Agnes from Sediment, and today let's have a showdown between two Italian greats, Sangiovese and Nebbiolo. There are many reasons why it is interesting to taste these two great Italian red grape varieties side by side. For one, Nebbiolo and Sangiovese are considered amongst Italy's finest, responsible for producing some of the most well-known, long-lived and priciest wines in the country. So let's compare and contrast them and finish this video with a nice blind tasting of 4 wines at 2 different price categories. In Italy, their territories almost do not overlap, which is nice because you do not need too much of a good thing in one spot. With very few exceptions, Nebbiolo plantings are mostly concentrated in the northern part of Italy, in regions like Piedmont, Valle d'Aosta and Lombardia. The greatest examples, of course, coming from the Langhe area in Piedmont under appellations like Barolo and Barbaresco. Sangiovese, on the other hand, is found in almost every winemaking region of Italy, often under different names, and can adapt itself well to various terroirs. There is some debate about its origin, but its principal home is Tuscany, with well-known names like Brunello di Montalcino, Chianti Classico, Vino Nobile di Montepulciano, and Morellino di Scansano. Both grape varieties, at least in my view, offer great expressions of their unique terroirs. While Barolo and Barbaresco might be harder to distinguish in a blind tasting, when Nebbiolo is grown in the sandier soils of Roero or the higher elevation of Donas in Valle d'Aosta, the style changes completely. The same goes for Sangiovese. Possibly because it is so widely grown, I think it offers even more versatility when it comes to its wines. Both grape varieties have also been explored outside of Italy with very good results. And lucky for us, examples from California, Australia or Argentina do not resemble the wines made in Italy, which only further cements their ability to express their respective terroirs so well.
I know you're a big fan of Nebbiolo.
I am.
Aren't we all?
Aren't we all?
And so I know when you reached out, you're like, send us some Nebbiolo. We thought we'd send our favourite producer in Australia, so Luke Lambert, set up in Yarra Valley, and he's doing, absolutely world-class Nebbiolo, really reflecting Australian terroir in a pretty incredible way.
Regarding the winemaking practices of these two grape varieties, let's start with Nebbiolo. There was a time when winemakers would go as far as to personally insult other winemakers over their winemaking choices. Yes, I am talking about the war between traditionalists and modernists. But it seems that nowadays very few winemakers use 100% new small oak barrels for aging of Nebbiolo. The magic now lies in the balance. If new oak is used, it's typically in the form of larger barrels or only a very small percentage of new oak. I mean, Nebbiolo has so much to offer in the glass that it does not really need a lot of oak influence. While many argue that neutral, large oak barrels are also best suited for Sangiovese, there are more examples of it being aged in new oak for those who prefer that style. A more debated topic in Sangiovese winemaking is the blending. Many will argue that international grape varieties like Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc and Merlot can easily overshadow Sangiovese's delicate character and are strongly opposed to their addition. I have tasted such wines myself, and I have noted that even small percentage of these grape varieties can have huge impact on the wine's flavors. That said, these blends often win high prizes among wine professionals and are certainly outstanding wines in their own right. I will be honest with you, my interest in this tasting is more technical. And maybe I haven't mentioned it before, but I started the Sediment wine YouTube channel as a way to help myself study. Even though some of you might disagree, the truth is that these two grape varieties are laterals, making them surprisingly easy to confuse in a blind tasting. Both Nebbiolo and Sangiovese lack the ability to produce deeply colored wines, so unless another grape is added, they will be paler in color. Nebbiolo also tends to lose its color relatively quickly, thus often showing brick or even orange tones early in its life. In contrast, Sangiovese, though also pale, tends to retain its bright cherry color for longer. Furthermore, both grape varieties have high levels of tannins and acidity, and both typically produce medium to full-bodied wines with elevated alcohol. They also have the potential to develop hauntingly beautiful aromas, ranging from red berries to dried herbs and even floral notes. For me, the key difference is that Nebbiolo tends to have more earthy flavors, and also it seems to me that its tannins are structured differently than those of Sangiovese, if that makes sense. In general, Sangiovese seems more energetic and livelier to me, while Nebbiolo is more down to earth with both feet on the ground. Some might call it nonsense, but it makes sense to me. However, it is one thing to talk about these two grape varieties when you know the labels, and completely different thing to identify and describe them in the blind tasting. That's why I have chosen 4 wines, 2 from each of their most respected winemaking regions, Piedmont and Tuscany, and at 2 different price points, $20 and $50. For me, this tasting is both educational as well as appreciating the unique expressions of these 2 iconic grapes. Let's see how they reveal themselves in the glass and whether those differences I mentioned before really stand out in the blind tasting. Okay, so let's taste and wine number 1. No surprises here, pale in color. Nose-wise, it is quite aromatic, and it does show those small sour berries, sour cherries, red strawberries, wild strawberries. But there's also a layer of some underbrush, some herbs in it, some dried rosemary or thyme. Shall we taste it? I think this wine is made in a very beautiful manner. There is the energy of the elevated acidity, it is mouth-watering, it is lively, beautiful, wrapped with lovely fruit, and there is nicely prepared tannins. I'm saying prepared tannins because they are not as high as I would expect from either Sangiovese or Nebbiolo, so it seems to me that there has been a specific winemaking in mind to make this wine maybe more approachable in its youth, to maybe make it easier to drink in its young age, but it is still very lovely wine. There is some sweetness to it, sweetness not in form of sugar, but in form of ripe fruit, and it definitely lingers quite long on the palate. It is very difficult to come to conclusion right now because it might be of exceptional quality, €20 Sangiovese. I do think that it is Sangiovese, or it might be a more restrained style of maybe €50 Sangiovese, but I do think it is a Sangiovese. But let's taste all of the wines before we come to final conclusion. Wine number 2. All right, this one shows more floral on the nose, and somehow it also seems slightly riper. So here we have mix of red berries as well as some riper, darker plums even. And there's also some hint of cedarwood, cigar box. But it is so much like with lilac and roses even. You know what they say? Roses are usually linked with Nebbiolo. And it does show power on the nose. It does show that I am, you know? Let's taste it. All right. This wine seems bigger, bolder, grown up. I mean, if you remember, I told in the beginning that for me, Sangiovese was this young, energetic, lively, and Nebbiolo for me was kind of with 2 feet on the ground. And this wine seems to have both feet on the ground, very stable, knowing where it's coming from. So it seems to me that this is Nebbiolo. It is quite elegantly done, quite light for Nebbiolo in style. It almost has that Pinot Noir quality, that Pinot Noir finesse to it, but it is not lacking any power or structure. The tannins here, they are not biting or kicking you in any way, like aggressive tannins. They're beautifully done, and I almost also feel that winemaker has tried to maybe calm the Nebbiolo tannins here down. Maybe I'm just talking nonsense and it's in fact Sangiovese, I don't know. But let's move to wine number 3. Okay, so this wine seems a bit closed on the nose for me at the moment. It is also a bit darker in the color than the previous two wines. Talk to me, talk to me. Usually when I feel wines are a bit closed on me and it is a blind tasting, the first song that pops into my mind, guess what it is? You can comment in the sections below. 2, 3, 2, 1, I will tell you. Who Are You by The Who. So who are you? 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, so it's opening up right now. And it starts to show some ripe fruits, some plums as well, red berries. Let's taste it. Maybe it will be more open on the palate. Okay, so this is very interesting because this wine has that high, mouth-watering, energetic acidity, but it moves like a wave. It just comes, clashes at your mid-palate, and then just moves away. So you feel it in the mid-palate, and then afterwards it just leaves with nice tannin, with nice fruit. The tannin here is a bit coarser, a bit stickier, and kind of maybe a bit robust in a way. So it makes me wonder, it might be Sangiovese, it might be Nebbiolo. This is very tricky wine for me. I will move to wine number 4 and see what is what. Okay, I think that this is, it must be. I think that this is Nebbiolo. I mean, look at the color. It is brick. It is brick. And to be honest, I did not enter any really old wines here. Nothing that is close to 10 years. And if it would not be Nebbiolo, then this color would immediately mean at least 10 or more years. But we know that we have in this flight 2 Nebbiolos, so this must be it. And it also has that earthy, that forest floor nose. I mean, that's something very unique with Nebbiolo. It is so inviting. It also has a bit of that horse sweat, that animal note, but not in a form of Brettanomyces. No, not at all. I don't feel any Brett here. It is just a bit animal-like. Let's taste it. I will stick with my initial judgment. This is Nebbiolo, and I think this is Barolo style. I mean, the tannins, they're just so high, they cover all of your mouth. They're just there and drawing the palate, but that's so typical of Nebbiolo, and this is why I love the grapes so much. It is done in a very beautiful, elegant way. And I mean, I keep swallowing my saliva. Acidity is there, but it is beautifully wrapped within body and fruits. And it is overall a complete and beautiful, lovely wine. I will stick with my initial judgment and I will say that wine number 3 is Sangiovese. It did show some of that rustic tannin. So I will think that that's maybe Rosso di Montepulciano. And wine number 1 is the more premium style of Sangiovese, and that leaves wine number 2, regional Langhe Nebbiolo, and wine number 4, as I mentioned in the very beginning, Barolo. Okay, let's reveal the wines and I will also score them. So wine number 1, I will give this wine 94 points. I think it was really beautiful, and if you remember, I told it was Chianti Classico. Yay! So it is Castello, Fonterutoli, Chianti Classico, Gran Selezione, one of the highest levels you can have of Chianti Classico. It was really beautiful wine. It is a big wine, so it kind of required some time to open up in the glass. Wine number 2, I said it is Langhe. I will give this wine 93 points. I think it was absolutely beautiful and really, really elegant wine. Let's reveal. Okay, Paolo Scavino, Langhe Nebbiolo, really beautiful wine, well-known producer. By the way, their Barolo 2019 vintage, if I'm not mistaken, was amongst the Wine Spectator's top 100. So make sure to look for this producer. It is one of the top ones in Barolo area. Wine number 3, due to its a bit rustic tannin structure, I thought it was Rosso di Montepulciano, and it also took some time to open up, so this was a bit difficult for me, and I will give this wine 91 points. So, okay, this wine is coming from a very respected producer in Vino Nobile di Montepulciano, only this label is Rosso di Montepulciano, so 2021 vintage. If I'm not mistaken, this might be the only wine that has some other grapes added to it, but definitely not international. I think it was like 3% of Colorino just to improve on the color in wine. So that leaves my love Barolo in the last bag. It seems almost unfair because I have to score this wine and I know what it is. I will give it 94 points. I think it is an absolutely beautiful wine. It comes from a stunning producer. And it is their regular Barolo Castiglione 2018 from producer Vietti. As they say in the Institute of Masters of Wine, the structure never lies, and it was really the case with wine number 1 and wine number 3. They had that energy, they had that youthful energy in their glasses. And with Nebbiolo, you know, you sometimes meet people, young people, and when you talk with them, you say, oh, they have an old soul. So it seems to me that Nebbiolo is a grape variety that has an old soul. They're just too wise for their own good. Both beautiful, both still very different. Let me know in the comments if you are team Nebbiolo or if you're team Sangiovese, or maybe just like me, you like them both. I hope you liked this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to watch this video next.